So once again we are meeting in the afternoon, and in this session I will be introducing you to a Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa text. It's a recently published book from the Central Sanskrit University, edited by me, from the manuscripts. So this is something which was hidden, unknown, and this is at least bona fide Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa. There may be other texts on Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa, we don't know. But this is definitely a bona fide text. I will not be going through all the details of how it came up and all that, but I am particular about some contents which I want to convey, which were the more ancient things, the theoretical aspects. But because there are IKS enthusiasts, and I am sure there are manuscriptology enthusiasts also here. The manuscriptology is one of the important things many people. So I want to say something about the manuscripts also, the editing of the manuscripts. How I came across this, I will say, yeah. I will skip this. As an introduction, I have to say, astronomy in this country is divided into two parts. This is there right from S.B. Dikshit's book, who wrote a history of astronomy. Later on, K.V. Sharma, Subrayappa, they have all more or less agreed this. There's the Siddhantic period and the pre-Siddhantic. Before Siddhanta, what was there? Siddhantic would mean right from Aryabhata, very clear, because we know his date. But there could have been Siddhantic texts even before that. The Soma Siddhanta, Brahma Siddhanta might have been about 100 years older than that. But the pre-Siddhantic would go to the more ancient period, before Chandragupta, Chanakya, Arthashastra kind of thing. Now, similarly, when we talk of Jyotiṣa, many people, at least today, think it is astrology. Whereas in the Vedic period, Jyotiṣa was not just astrology, it was about the celestial objects and celestial bodies. But astrology was also there. Now, astrology also can be divided into two groups. One is the Hora astrology and the pre-Hora astrology. So, the Hora astrology is roughly from Yamana Jataka, Spujidvaja, and then later on Varahamihira and others, that astrology, Parashara Hora and all that. Whereas in the pre-Hora period, there is no Hora concept at all. There is no horoscope concept. But in astrology, as interpreting the positions of the celestial bodies for human beings is there, even from the Vedic period. And this text, as the Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa, touches upon both. My intention is to give you a little bit of taste for these two things. Now, this text is attributed to Garga. Actually, there are so many Gargas. Gargas, even now there are Gargas with last name being Garga. And Garga is essentially a Gotra name. So, there are Gargas, Gargiyas, Vṛddhagārgīya, text in their name. So, we will simply take the senior most person as Vṛddhagārgīya, the oldest person. I can't do anything better than that. Because there is a Garga Samhita, Garga Hora, Garga Prashnavali, Garga Manorama. Attributed to Garga, text published, unpublished, manuscripts, there are at least about 100 or so. Some of them are called Gargya Samhita, Gargīya Samhita, Gargīya Jyotiṣa, Vṛddhagārgīya Samhita, variety of things. Now, my interest in this came up because Vṛddhagārgīya is famous even from the time of Mahabharata. Now, Mahabharata, as we know today, may be later than Garga, later than the Vṛddhagārgīya. We have to be careful, because Mahabharata was written down only during a later period. It may be an ancient story, but still it is important, because there is a shloka which has attracted me for a very long time. Yatra gargena vruddhena tapasa bhavitatmana kala jnana gatischaiva jyotishancha vyatikramaha. In fact, the most important thing why they pursued Jyotiṣa was kala jnana. And even now they define Jyotiṣa as kala vidhana shastram. So it is the time measurement, time fixing up, time knowing, Everything was about Kala only. And also Vyatikramaha. Jyotisham Vyatikramaha. There is a Utpatas. Some anomaly happens and all that. Then Chatushyashtingam Adadat Kala Jnanam Mamadbhutam. It has 64 Angas, is Jyotiṣa. By Shiva it was given, he says, where Saraswatya State Tushta Mano Yajnena Pandava. It is on the Saraswati bank, Saraswati river bank. So Garga Srota is a famous place, even today it is there, called Goguran or Gargaranya, roughly on the Saraswati river, which was supposed to be flowing in those days. And it is said that there was a great rishi there who started this Jyotiṣa, both the Jyotisham Vyatikramaha. And he was also a expert in Utpata and other things it comes. So this had attracted me for a long time, and I wanted to see. Yes.
Who says this quote, this verse? From where is the verse?
Mahabharata.
Who is uttering this sloka?
Who is uttering this shloka? See, we get into the Mahabharata syntax and morphology. Sometimes Vyasa says, sometimes somebody else says.
Because he got it said Kalanganam Mamadbhudam. So somebody receiving from Garga is there.
Correct.
Who is that I?
Shiva. From Shiva he is receiving. I have not quoted all the quotations there. It is there in the book. If you have to go through, if you see the history of how this has developed, it's again a very complex kind of thing, And in another place it comes in a slightly different way. He observed the Utpatas and from that he interpreted it comes. But here it comes in.
It is not Parasara.
No. Parashara is different. Parashara's name is also there. See, okay, there are, before Siddhantic astronomy, traditionally two astronomers are very well known. That is Garga and Parashara. Reason why people are telling that is not so astronomical, because their name comes in the Vyakarna. Because there is a sutra called Gargadibhyo Ganya or some such thing. That is a sutra. But who was Garga? That you know only from Patanjali's Mahabhasha. He says there were two astronomers, famous Jyotisha, Garga and Parashara. In their case, for their other followers, you have to use the Pratyaya Gain. So that is how we know there are two astronomers called Parashara and Garga. There is no other thing. Traditionally I am telling. Unless you look into these greater details. Now, Parashara Tantra is different. I will not go into that. I have edited it, as I told you, from the quotations and all that. But there was no manuscript originally available for me. But there was nothing available for me on that. But I was searching for Garga. If Parashara is not available, let me search for Garga. Then, okay, anyway, let me go further. So the manuscripts are available about name Garga. Now, who is Garga, who is Vṛddhagārgīya, who is Gargiya, who is Gargya? People have discussed some of this. There are no conclusions on that. Because the Indologists were interested, as we know, primarily in chronology, in Rigveda, in PIE, and in Aryan invasion. And these were the things that people were interested in. And the people who went into the scientific issues, scientific texts, they were all trying to show that all the knowledge came from Greece or somewhere. Or at least there has been a overlapping thing from Greece. So if it is astronomy, if it is mathematics, that was their approach. So Pingree was, you might have heard of his name, he's a very famous man. He has brought out 4 volumes of Census for Exact Sciences in Sanskrit. Monumental work. One of us should have done that work, but he has done that. He lists about 30 manuscripts or so of Garga and Parashara. All gives wrong opinion, his opinion about it. That is a different matter. So I consulted that also. Then I came to the conclusion, if I have to search for Garga, I have to collect large number of manuscripts and see, separate out which is the older, which is the newer. That is the only way I can do. And the thumb rule for that, as I told in the morning, if there is Rashi, if there is weekdays, that is later. It may be very ancient, that is a different matter. But it's a discriminating function I need, which I have to consider first, which I have to think as later one. If there is horoscope, that is definitely later. If there are no horoscopes in predictions, they are earlier. That was the principle. That is why Parashara is earlier, Parashara Tantra, not the Hora Parashara, because he has Nakshatra Jataka, but he has only Nadi Nakshatra Jataka, no horoscope Jataka. Jataka word simply is a Sanskrit word, is the generative thing it says. It doesn't say it is the Kundali or any such thing. Anyway, that apart. So when we collected about 25 manuscripts, and from the 25 manuscripts I separated out, I will not go into all the details. The first 10 or 11, they are called sometimes Garga Samhita, Vṛddhagārgīya name. Catalog name is different. So we have to get into the original, in what is there inside, and then see the subject. This is the difficulty in manuscript work, particularly in science. We came to the conclusion the first 10 or 11 contains very ancient material. There is no Rashi there, there is no weekdays there. Whereas the later one, Gargya Samhita and the others which are from Asiatic Society, etc., they contain others also. There is also one manuscript in Malayalam, and that is called, it is here, you can see. So this is the bundle. This one you can see there, this palm leaf manuscript, that is a Malayalam manuscript. I got a transcript, I have the full transcription, because it was about Garga. Actually, that is the manuscript content at least used by Nilakanta Swamiyaji. Because he refers to Gargi, he says Gargya Samhita, and where the Bhujakoti Nyaya is given, Karnakoti Bhujakoti Nyaya is given, that is the Pythagoras theorem. I was trying to locate, it is there in this. And this has a very long story. I'm sure people in Kerala should be interested. This is not from Kerala. I got it from Chandigarh, DAV College. The story is, there was a set of Malayalam manuscripts, which somewhere in the 1910 or somewhere around that time, one of the princes, he took it to Lahore, because Lahore was a very great center for learning, and it was deposited in the Lahore library. But after independence, the separation, partition, something was lost. Whatever was remaining, that was all shifted to Vishweshwarananda, Hoshiarpur. Because that is considered the Vishwamitra's birthplace by many people. That is where the great K.V. Sharma worked as the director of the Indology Research Institute. So he knew about this. He has referred in his thing. But this has not been studied. This is part Samhita, part Siddhanta. That text gives the sign table in terms of 36 parts, not 24. Whereas Aryabhata and all others, they give 24 only parts, for that quadrant. He gives 36 quadrants. I have not fully studied it. Somebody should take it up and later and do that. But anyway, from these manuscripts, 11 of them, and you can see some of the script how it is. These are all paper manuscripts. Some of them are very old, some of them are slightly modern. None of these manuscripts can be older than about 500 years, because the manuscript was written, rewritten kind of thing, But the content may be very old, and these do not have the vara and those things. So that is how my interest started in this. The Mangala Shloka is very important. Jagadvidhatre tamasam nihantre goptre prajanam pala sampradatre mantrakshana srotasi bhavakartre tasmai namo di vidhaye savitre. It is a prayer to sun. No Vishnu, no Shiva or anything. It is to the sun directly. See, the Jyotiṣa and even the Vedic people, particularly the Aranyaka period, if you see, there is lot of things which goes to sun. It is the solar. In the morning I was talking about the lunar. Many people think Indians knew only the lunar zodiac, and the nakshatras were the moon stations. All the Westerners have written like that. Even our own people, they have repeated the same thing. Oh, it is the Rashi, it is the Nakshatra, the Chandra Rashi is what I know, and the Surya is different and all kinds of things. Nothing like that. It is the sun which was important. Moon was also there. It was a secondary. That was also there for short time periods. For long time, Samvatsar and other things, it was only the sun which was considered. Anyway, this is a large book. There are about 5,000 shlokas, more than that. So I can't be doing everything there. We started with the first part to edit. That means, like anybody else would do, I thought that I will publish this and bring it to the attention of the scholars and all that. I started from the first one called the Karma Gunanga, which are about 5 chapters. Published it also in a Sanskrit journal. It is available. But while reading that, I got the feeling that I could not understand anything of this clearly. There was a lot of confusion. But they were all technical words, so they should have some meaning. So again and again reading the whole text, because unless the whole text is read, we can't even do even the remaining things. It's such a large one. There is a anga, 24 main angas, and then the remaining are called the upangas, a subsidiary. The subsidiary upangas are added later on, because there are new words, new concepts are there. Descriptions of what is the older is also there. So we can relatively know they are all later. But the 24th anga, which I have marked as red, called Mahāsalilaṁ, it was standing as a singularity. It was neither go there nor here, and it was such tough Sanskrit. It was totally in prose. And if you read it, it seemed as though it was like a Vedic text. There are so many iti coming like in the Brahmanas. And how to understand that was very difficult. Went on for about 5 years studying this, struggling with it. Then slowly it emerged, because we compared 11 manuscripts, not one. 11 manuscripts, and one part of this Mahāsalilaṁ was quoted by Somakara, who has written a bhashya on the Yajusha Jyotiṣa. Because there are 2 Jyotishas, Archa and Yajusha, and that is what is believed to be Vedanga, or at least have been called to be Vedanga by INSA. INSA published it as Vedanga Jyotiṣa, K.V. Sharma and Kupana Shastri. So people think that is the Vedanga Jyotiṣa. But if that Jyotiṣa is totally in poetry, this is totally in prose. This Mahāsalilaṁ is prose. And there are some comparisons between the two, similarities between the two. So I got interested in this, whereas the Lagada's Vedanga Jyotiṣa, which has been shown to belong to 1300 BCE, which I have put up there, Aditya Chara is 1300 BCE, that is also 1300 approximately. Parashara Tantra is also 1300. Can't go into all the details. But this Mahāsalilaṁ does not belong to that period, because the language is different, the position of the sun given is different, so many things are different in this. So that is how my curiosity started. I decided first we will edit this, publish this, so for whatever worth it is, and then go further, do the remaining thing. There is a lot of astronomy in the other adhyayas also, Graha Kosha, Graha Samagama, Graha Pradakshinya, Graha Vikridita. There is astrology also related to Grahas, and the later Palita Jyotiṣa, 50% of that has come from this text. Even Varahamihira clearly says, he says, I am telling only what Parashara and Garga have said. That's all what I am telling, he says in the Bharat Samhita. Very clearly he says that. So we had to know this, because it's the most important thing. If we are interested in history of astronomy or history of astrology or history of science. And there is one chapter called Yuga Purana here, which you refer to in the morning. This Yuga Purana is a chapter in the Upanga. It has been added. It is an interpolation. It does not belong to Vṛddhagārgīya, but it is historically important. And there are some peculiarities with this. I was interested in the Saptarshi Chara. Many people would have known that Saptarshi are supposed to stay for 100 years in each nakshatra. What Brihat Samhita says. I was looking further, because Varahamihira says it is due to Vṛddhagārgīya. This manuscript doesn't have that. but instead it has Yuga Purana, which is not known to others. So the text, critically if you see, there have been a lot of additions, but these additions don't look at it from the angle of being prakshipta or interpolated. They're historically important. You see them from the point of view of history, what they give. So for the development of history, they would be important. Now we can locate some of the chronologies, some of the names of the kings also, and why Vṛddhagārgīya, the Saptarshi which is in the Puranas also was not there. Primary interest of both Saptarshi as well as Yuga Purana is to link Parikshit with Nanda. That is Mahabharata chronology. Both give away. Yuga Purana also does that linking. But it is more with the Shaka. With the Shaka it links. And the Sankalpa you were mentioning, Shakabde, who is that Shaka? People think Shaka is an era. Shakabda is an era, you can say. Shaka is the Scythians, who are the barbarians who invaded India from in around 100 AD, and they destroyed Saketa, Pataliputra and Avanti. And then there was a lot of difficulties, and the Guptas, they came and threw them out. But some of those Shakas remained back in India. That is a separate matter. And that is a bad story actually. The period is a very worst period. That is remembered by us, even today, Shakabda. So,
what about that Shalivahana king? He was a good king.
No, Shalivahana came later on, slightly later on.
So in his name only Shaka came. Shaka came
No, you see, Shalivahana Shaka, there are difference of opinions. Shalivahana started later on, whereas Shaka, I shouldn't be going into that because there is whether the Shaka Anta or Shaka Adi is a question. Whether it was from the Cyrus who was in 500 BC or so, or the Shaka who came and Gardabila and others who killed in Avanti and carried away Hindus to other parts, Afghanistan and other parts, is that the Shaka? So there is a difference of opinion. We'll not go into that. Right now, 78 AD is accepted as the Shakabda first year. So we will simply stick to that. It's not necessary for this because it's older than that, Now, this Mahāsalilaṁ, I was mentioning about Yuga Purana. So that is why Yuga Purana is important. And the yugas, there are 4 yugas, only 1000 years yugas. Not the greater yugas of that kind. But it also gives Parikshit. And the connection between Parikshit and when the Shaka came up is roughly about 1200 years, 1300 years. We will not go into that detail here. But this is important for that. Now I will come to my main subject matter. In this manuscript, let me see. Of the 60, there are no 64 Angas here. Actually, there are 62 chapters plus 2 introductory chapters. So some people say it is 64. You may take it anyway. There are 2 chapters that Adityachara, which belongs to 1300 BCE, because the Uttarayana was starting from the Shravishta Nakshatradi as in the Lagada. And there is one more chapter called Ritusvabhava. Ritusvabhava belongs to 500 BCE, which we have analyzed because it gives the position of sun in these various seasons. Based on the precision of the equinox, we can get the rough date. This is how the dates are, astronomical dates are anyway determined. Can I change this? Okay. Well, anyway, I have given the details here, the solar nakshatras, why it is. We have been published in the Journal of History of Science. If somebody is interested, they can see how we have done this. We analyzed, scanned for about 3000 years, and the minimum error solution is what is given. So the statements have the minimum error around 1300 BCE, the green one. The Adityachara are the 11th Anga, whereas the 59th Anga, the minimum error is around 500. So this Vṛddhagārgīya corpus, what I showed you before, is a cultural treasure because it has benchmark of 1500 BC, also has a benchmark of 500 BC, a 1000-year period. What is in between? the various other sargas, adhyayas and all that, there may be of social interest, religious interest, cultural interest, maybe of whatever it may be. So that is contained in some manner. That's all the data we get out of this. There is one chapter on Janamara Shanti. If there are epidemics, what has to be done? Obviously, they would have got epidemics in that 1,000-year period, So what they were doing is also given. Now, these two, if you keep in your mind, 500, 1,500 or something, this Mahāsalila does not belong to this period. Reason is, linguistically, it is very different. These are all in poetry, whereas that's in prose. And that is at the end of the, I think it's not changing, you need something else, maybe battery is weak. Okay, fine. The 24th Anga, what I was mentioning, has been added there, has been preserved in some manner, maybe due to somebody thought it's very important, let me keep it there because my grandfather had kept it, so let me not throw it out. That may be the reason. So they have put it there. And the words which are there, the technical words which are there, they come up in the first and the second chapter. And that is what I could not understand in the beginning, whereas their explanation is given here. In the 24th or the Mahāsalilaṁ, that is this book, which I am keeping here, So we started editing this. And I will not go into all the details of it. It has only 2 chapters. It's a very short thing. The number of, if you consider as shlokas, it is totally in prose. There is no verses. In terms of shlokas, about 300 shlokas may be there, anushtup shlokas, equivalent volume. But the content is enormous. As you know, in Sanskrit, if you explain one word, you have to write one paragraph or something, or longer than that even, to understand an explanation. If you don't know Sanskrit originally, you write in English or in other languages, or write a Vyakhyana, it has to be very long. So there are only 2 chapters. The first chapter is about questions, Prashnadhyaya. 100 questions are there, by Vishwamitra to Vṛddhagārgīya. The second chapter is about answers. The answers are not all for the 100, but roughly in that way it is there. The large number of astronomical and a little bit of astrology is also covered. So I will expose you a little bit to that. But before that, I want to point out, if somebody is interested, the foreword in English by Professor M.D. Srinivas, it is there. He is the person who got his Padma Shri recently, He's a historian of science. He is in Madras. He's a physicist. He's a very learned person. He has written in English. Because pre-Siddhantic astronomy, there is no text otherwise, in India. And the other foreword is by Professor Veernarayan Pandurangi, who is the professor of head of the department Vedanta and Vedics in Karnataka Sanskrit University from Udupi. He is a Dvaita Vedanti, very learned person. He is a traditional scholar. It is in Sanskrit. He tries to bring out why in the Purva Mimamsa people, they take everything as Arthavada, whereas the Arthavada in the Rigveda is connected with astronomy. That is the Adidaivata meaning which I was mentioning in the morning, and that has led to the astronomy, and that Adidaivata is continued in Mahāsalilam. Now, to whichever period it may belong, whether it is a transition between Rigveda or Yajurveda, those things are not known. We will have some data on the dating corresponding to 1800 BCE, but that may not be very perfect or exact. There might have been astronomy even before that, this kind of astronomy, but we have data only on this. So, Pandurangi, it is very important for traditional Sanskrit scholars, and he has been going and talking about it, that you have to see the Rigveda and the Veda, the Adiyajna Paksha and all of that, from the Adidaivata Paksha also, if it is possible, particularly when numbers are there. Whether they are observational things, if they have observed the sky, and it may be poetry for you, but there may be astronomy for the scientists for that, That is the argument. So hence, the very important thing, I will not be able to cover that. He talks about, and in fact this text also mentions, that was the problem I had in the first chapter. There is a word called Sannayam, because there is a content of the text which is given in the Anga Samuddesha. Many of the ancient texts, they give a contents like the modern text. So you would know roughly what are the things which are there. So in that, he says, Sannayam Paurnamasyancha Pitrdaivata Tarpanam is all important for that. Ayanam you have to study, in what order Jyotiṣa has to be studied. It's a very detailed things which are given. After what you, Samvatsara you do that. After that you have to say Shukrachara. After that you have to say Brihaspatichara. The order, everything is given. Now what is that Sannayam Paurnamasya? Paurnamasya, you know. Sannaya from the context we can know it is Amavasya. Only from the context. But if we see the kosha, the Shrauta kosha and the Yajnika kosha and all, the Sannaya is a mixture of curd and milk to be given on the Amavasya day, in the Dashapurnamasya Yaga, which we were discussing in the morning, which is supposed to remove the Raja Yakshma, which Soma got. There, you know the story, it goes into that. These look like stories, and people would say, oh, I will go out, I don't want it. But that is the fundamental, you know. Like in the morning, the Akhyanas brought out something, because the Akhyanas we remember. And if somebody, like, you know, the modern cryptography, you want to keep it secret, you don't want it to go out, you protect it in some way. But if the Chinese are interested, they will break the code and see what is inside. So they expected that kind of thing. So that legend of Soma, Rohini legend, is very important for Indian astronomy and Indian astrology. That comes up only from Mahāsalilaṁ. It explains that also. That is another matter. The Sannayam, yes sir.
Briefly, then what is that Soma getting with Raja Yakshma? What is the
I will come to that. It is there. You know, I will just in some sequence I will go. Only thing is it may extend beyond your time.
So that's why I called it brief.
No. I have to go in a sequence. I don't want to combine it. Because there is a logical sequence here. Otherwise, it is a Puranic sequence. It's only in the Krishna Paksha, sun, moon lost is because of the thing. But Krishna Paksha is no. We have seen in the morning, Krishna Paksha, the Devas come and drink. And he again comes out. So Raja Yakshma from the Puranic thing cannot be explained. That is the white, the Lukodharma and all that. It is all absurd. The earlier Puranas don't have that. Brahmanda Purana, Vayu Purana, Vishnu Purana doesn't have that. There, I showed you in the morning, the Brahmanda Purana shloka. It is only that, you know. So the legend is something which is important for astronomy actually, for history of astronomy. Now let me come to this. So this Sannaya, it has been misinterpreted even by many of the people who have edited this book. And they would say the word Sannaya has been changed to Samrajya. If you see the Brihat Samhita text by the Garga quotations there. But Sannaya in the Yajnika, everybody said, no, it has to be only this. But this says, Sannaya is the position between Amavasya and Darsha. And again, between the Purnima, the Purnima day may be different. Purna Tithi Paurnamasyam Bhavati. When moon's face is full, that is Purna Tithi. The word Tithi comes first time in this book, Purna Tithi. And Purna Tithi means it is a limiter. In English, you would say 10th. That TH you remember, 10th, 4th, 16th. It may be time or it may be position. 10th man or 10th row, 10th day, it may be anything like that. Same thing, that Tithi is the TH. Tituk Pratyaya, what in Panini, the Shikshar, no, the Unadi Sutra says that Tituk Pratyaya meaning is only TH. Whether it is PIE, I don't know. But it is Tith. And Purna Tithi is the time, instant time, when it is full. And he says, Purna Tithi Paurnamasyam Kalo Bhavati Nirvartayati. Same thing rotates. And that Purna Tithi to Purna Tithi is what is called Masa. In the morning there was some discussion on the synodic month. That is the synodic month. What is the length of that is another matter. There is a measurement that comes later on. Similar thing is in Sanaya also. No? Because these are instantaneous. The day may be for 30 muhurta, but the sun and the moon join for only a tatkalika. It's an instantaneous time and goes out. So they wanted a word for that. That is Sanaya. See, Amavasya, he says, the Vedic perception, that Soma comes and stays on earth with the Gauh, Pashu, lakes, Saras, Nadi and all that. And then he is taken. Soma is taken. Sannayena, Sannayati, that is the thing which is used. In the Vedas, the mantra comes. Then Tat Sannayase, Sannayatvam, it ends something like that. Then Darsha happens. Darsha is the seeing, that is the Shukla Pratipad. So, Amavasya, he may be anywhere, you can't see him. But then you see him on the Shukla Pratipad in the west, not in the east, but in the west only. Parapashad Drishyate. What happened in between? That instant is Sannaya. Sannayana Sannayate. And that is the instant when moon and sun are mixed, exact mixing. You can call it Pratika in the Adi Yajna Paksha as a mixture of curds and milk. I have no objection on that. That is what the Mimamsakas have done. They have not done anything great. They have given only a Pratika, which was already there. And how do you fix up Sannaya? It is a great thing. You can't exactly fix anything. Even today you can't do that instantaneous thing. And all the astronomers, Siddhantic astronomers, have struggled with that. Later on, the Tatkaliki Gati came up in Kerala, in the Nilkanta Swamiyaji and others. They brought in not the Newton's derivative, but the infinite series, which is also an equivalent of differential calculus only, because of the Tatkaliki Gati. So, because the rate of change has to come, if it is the Tatkalika, they have brought that also. So, all that has originated from here. It may be words, but the words have concepts, and it is the concepts which are the more important thing. Let me quickly pass through this, and I have to come to your questions there. Okay, this is how the book is structured. If some of you are interested, you can buy the book and read it. So I will not go into that. But without an introduction, without knowing why Mahāsalilaṁ is Vedanga, the things won't be clear. Because all what I said in the morning, at least 60 to 70% of that is needed. And I have explained it in greater detail. The first chapter is about the manuscripts, how we collected, which are the reliable ones, which are the patantaras, which are not correct, and so on and so forth. Manuscriptology. The second is about why Mahāsalilaṁ is the Vedanga. I will skip that. This is the Mahāsalilaṁ actual text, how we have given. Given the text, for example, Athato Mahāsalilaṁ Anu Vyakhyāsyāmaha Itihasmaha Bhagavan. People who know the Vedic textual style immediately say, look, what is this? Itihasmaha Bhagavan, Itihasmaha Shandila, Itihasmaha Bhagurya, Itihasmaha. All the Upanishads have the Itihasmaha given in the footnote also there. Itihasmaha Bharadwaja. At least about 30 times this word comes, not in classical Sanskrit, but only in the Vedic Sanskrit. This Athato comes in so many places. Athato Dharma Vyakyasyamaha, Athato Vyakyasyamaha, Brahma Sutra and all that. This is the same style. But there is an Anu Vyakyasyamaha. Anu Vyakyasyamaha means it is already something is there. I am explaining it once again. What was the original, we don't know. What is there is what I have edited and brought out. Then what are the questions? There are some details which I am skipping. You see, I am going to the later on the 25th page. Katham va tarakaha, kativa, katham va tarakanam tarakatvam, parimanam katham. Like this, there are about 100 questions. I will show the total prose also once. Kincha prithivyaha parimanam, antarikshasya va, ratrayr va, diva va, samudrasya va, marutasya va, panchamahabhutana. These questions are valid even today. These are the questions today also. What is the distance between sun and moon? What is the distance from Prithvi to sun? How many stars are there? What are their importance? How did all this come up? So all those questions come up, and I have shown you at the end the Pushpika, Vṛddhagārgīya Mahāsalile Prashna Nirdesho Nama Adhyayah. I have picked up the title of this book from that Pushpika. It's called Mahāsalilaṁ. Not in all the manuscripts, at least in one of the manuscripts. And it is Vṛddhagārgīya. It is not just Gargiya, because the Westerners are arguing, Pingree and those people, they brought out only it has to be called Garga Jyotiṣa. And Mahāsalila they have not studied, they have not translated, they have not edited. They simply said Mahāsaliladhyaya is rainfall. If you see the paper, it has been written as rainfall. Rainfall theory is there, but it is not just rainfall. This Salila is the ancient matter. Now, the kind of answers I am showing too. Mukametat prajapatehe yat darsha paurnamasam. Evam apuryamanam apakshiyamanas somaha purnatiti paurnamasam kalo bhavati nirvartayati. This is what I was explaining just now. And it is the Mukametat Prajapatehe Darsha Purnamasa. Darsha Purnamasa was a yaga and so many things. But that is the Mukha of Prajapati, and for even astronomical things, And Prajapati has 4 faces. 2 faces are this, Paurnima and whether you want to call it Darsha, because you see it. Darsha and Paurnima, which are the other 2? It doesn't come here. In other places it comes. It is in the Sandhya, in the Sayankala, in the Sandhya, there are 2 phases. Which Sandhya? It is not everyday Sandhya. It is on the Ashtami, Shukla Ashtami and Krishna Ashtami, Sandhya, whether it is early morning or in the evening, you see the 2 phases of moon. That is the semicircle, which is there in the Darshapurna as the semicircle on the other side, And they are the 4 faces of Prajapati. It's also the Chaturmukha Brahma. So you can see one face is not visible because it is Amavasya, or slightly visible maybe because it is Darsha. The other 3 are okay. And this is the concept which has come into iconography. It is not just astronomy, culture and myth and stories. Everywhere it is the same thing, cultural importance. Now, anyway, this is the first time the word Tithi comes, because Tithi is a controversial thing in interlogical circles like AIT. Now, Pingree and others, they have said concept of Tithi has come from Babylonians to Indians. Now, the word Tithi is not there in Babylonian, in any of the texts. But their astronomy cannot be understood unless you know the concept of Tithi, because Tithi is slightly lesser than the solar day. Vṛddhagārgīya develops that, I can't go into that. Now, the word Tithi is there everywhere later on. How did it start is the question. Today, a Tithi means, even the Panchami is a Tithi, Shashti is a Tithi. We attach that word Tithi to all of that. In the olden times, they were not doing that. Only for the Purnima, they called it Tithi. Because it was a limiter. It was a limitation, like the 10th or 30th kind of thing. And that word comes from here, and that is why the historical importance. Then you can see the later on, why Chandrama has a Shashanka. He calls that. Why he is called Chandrama Lakshma Shashankaha. Yascha Yesha Tat Shashanka Samsita Lakshmo Vai Chandra Sankula Madhye Drishyate Sacha Dvitiya Shuklatvam Tat Varunascha Apa Yetan Madhye Yesha Prithivya Kritam Chandra Mandala Madhye Samakritihi. That what you see there as a Shasha, and also there is another mark which is there, that is the reflection of Prithvi on moon is what is said there. And if you see the picture, somebody has created this, it looks like an inverted earth map. Where did they get that? That is from here. This, the second place where you get this is in Mahabharata only, in no other place. And this is the original statement here. And this is Vedic because the Taittiriya Brahmana talks about Srishti when moon and Prithvi separated out. And at that time, the separation created disturbances, and the Lakshma, the Shashanka thing, remained on moon. And in turn, moon gave Usha, that is the deserts to earth. And that is how the interrelationship has been discussed there. What is the background, I don't know. But that concept is discussed further here. This may be an alternate concept. I quoted the everywhere in the footnote, I give the quotations and all that. Okay, then all the things critically edited, I have put up like this. Each thing with the 11 manuscripts are given, alternates. Some of them are patantaras, some of them are apapatas, some of them are mistakes, some of them make no sense, some are I can't also understand, I can't do anything. And all that have been given for others to continue this research if they are interested in. So the bold ones are the ones from which we have selected the pata. The others are all given. So you can do a reverse work, inverse work if somebody is interested. You can construct all the 11 manuscripts which I showed from this also by combining on a computer you can do that work if you are savvy enough writing a code for that. Yeah, I was here. So this is how the book has been presented. Before I go to the contents, I want to show briefly two things. These are the facsimils. I have given two facsimils, actual manuscript photographs, completely of the Mahāsalilaṁ Adhyaya, called A1 and K1, because the differences are there and so many things. The Patantaras, if somebody wants to continue, they can continue. And then, in the appendix, what I had originally published, the first 5 chapters, which I said I could not fully understand and all that, since it had already been edited, put it as an appendix. Because the Anga Samuddesha is there, which gives the contents and all that. And the importance of the appendix is, whatever is given in Mahāsalila, that expansion is there. For example, in some nakshatra, some work can be done. We will come to the astrology. That astrological things is discussed by the followers of Vṛddhagārgīya, his family people maybe. They have written it in poetry only. Say, for example, Kritika nakshatra, all the qualities are given. And Kritika, Kanyopanayanam kuryat Kritika nakshatra and all that. So that is how they give. So if somebody is interested in later on how the Jyotiṣa developed, they can also look into these things.
Does this prove there was Upanayana for ladies?
So this proves there was Upanayana
Of
for girls.
course, I have already communicated with him of 5 years back. Kanyopanayanam was there, was practiced, definitely. Only
Brahmavadinis and Sadyavadinis.
Sadyavadin and Brahmavadinis were there. But this Kanyopanayanam, why I am showing it is, in the Dharmashastra books, if you see, some of them, they say Kanyopanayanam was in the Purakalpa. And Purakalpa, they think it was 300 million years ago. It is all wrong. It was practiced there clearly. And there are groups of people who say, even now, some kind of pratika Kanyopanayana is done. Some pratika is done. It may not be the full Upanayana of that kind, But this is very clear, Here it is very clear. Because it belongs to 500 BC. I showed you that Ritu Swabhava and all that. That language and that, all that, and these adhyayas, the first 4 adhyayas, they roughly belong to 500 BC. So at that time they were doing. Later on, maybe because of the Shaka invasion or something which gone out. Now, just to give a taste of the text, because many of you can read Sanskrit. It is like a rishi talking to people, exactly that, like that photograph. Atato Mahāsalilaṁ, etc. Bhagīratyaha Surajala Vahinyaha Tribhuvana Vahinya Maharshi Siddha Sevitayaha Tire Amartyam Ugratapasam Sarvajñam Sarvadarshanam. I am sure Sanskritists would like all these words. Vitapapmanam Ananta Vijnanam Angirasam Maharshim Vṛddhagārgam. So he was the question. And his qualifications, Hutagni Hotram Kritajapya Mangalam Apagata Bhaya Trimoha Prasannam. Only the Vedantins will understand what is this Trimoha and all that. Amarasamam, Ashramastam, Asinam. What happened? Abhisamikshya. Maharshihi Vishwamitro Mahatapascha Abhigamya Sarvancha Anupurvam Sprashtva. In fact, people have been questioning me left and right on this Anupurvam Sprashtva. Then Upavishya Sukham Kathantare Prashnavidam Anupaprach. The Sanskrit people can look into that. The meaning is very clear. He questions that. The Sarvancha Anupurvam Sprashtva, if I have to translate it, it will run for pages together. It is not. One person asked me, why don't you say he touched his foot and then be done with it? I said, no. Sprashtva, Anupurvam Sprashtva has special meaning. There are younger people, he can't touch the foot. He has to do only hand, and he has to agrana, shirograna, or something he has to do, depending on the Apastamba Sutra or some other sutra. And the others he has to hug and do only here. And so many things are there. And that is why he uses the word Anupurvam Sprashtva, be done with it. Then he also asks, Samsheha Pradurbhutah Shrunu. Katha imaha prajaha stavara jangamaha jauha antariksham prithivicha tatra kathamiyam prithivi pradurbhabuva. Kasmacheyam prithivi kvava tishtati. Where is Prithvi standing? Katham va antariksham, katham va jauha is a very long one. Cut it. Tatacha samudraha katham kativa. Katham is one. Kativa, how many is also there. Katham tesham samudratvam is a geography. It is almost a kind of a cosmological creation kind of thing that he is questioning. There are 100 questions in the first chapter. The full it is there. Sections you can see, the red ones you can read. Katham chesham grahatvam shukra brahaspati angaraka buddha shanaishcharadhinam va katham va astamayanti udayanti katham va upahimsanti. That is astrological questions. Katividam va pidayanti, apyayanti. Katham vema sprishtaha kimartam. Is a graha yuddha and all of that which comes there. Kenava shukrasya shukratvam. Why is called shukra? And the important thing, Katicha yesham ekaikasya rashmayaha parisankhyaayante. Each one tell me how many rashmis are there for them. Is the brightness, luminosity, brightness. He asked that. And then in Kathamba, I am Rahu Surya Chandramasa Granite. There is no Ketu here. It's only Rahu. He captures both of them. Kathamba ime Dhumaketavaha Pradurbhutaha. How did the Dhumaketus come up? He asked that question. Kativa Parisankhyayanti. How many Dhumaketus are there? Varna Sankhyayanam Shika Parimanam va. Shika Parimanam is the length. Shika is, along with the hair which looks like that. What is the length of that? And see, ke antarhitaha tishtante, which are, you can't see them. There are some which are hidden Dhumaketus. And how many are there? They had suspicion of all of these things. So that is why he is questioning. And they had seen many of them.
Comets. Comet. She is asking what is Dhumaketu.
Dhumaketu is comet. Comet.
Shooting star.
Huh?
Shooting star.
Shooting star is not this.
Shooting star is
Ketava is a general question. You may wonder in English, Marut are the shooting stars. Because in the Rigveda the Maruts come, and later on Ulka comes up. Here also, your question is correct because later on that question comes up. And there is a difference of opinion between Baguri and Vṛddhagārgīya on what are these things which are shooting, which are going away like that. And he says some of them, they become dead in the Antariksha itself. He says that also. Later astronomers developed this into Ulka Pata and Ulka Lakshana Adhyaya. Both Varahamihira gives, but Vṛddhagārgīya also in the later chapters it is there. And here further it is there. Kati Chaitani Nakshatrani. What are these nakshatras? Katham va Some Samavasanti. These are all in Soma. All the nakshatras in Soma. How are they staying in Soma? Who is Soma is another question, but they are in Soma. Want to take him as moon? Okay, but we will come to that question. Kinchaisham Daivata Prayojanam. For each nakshatra there is a Devata. What is the use of this? Katham va Soma Sanyutani Karmanyani Bhavanti. You do some work when it is along with Soma. How do they become? What is the reason? Anyai grahaihi sanyuktani akarmanyani. If they combine with other grahas, these nakshatras, you say that they are not, you can't do some work there, good work or whatever. Why? And it goes like that. And katham vayame saptarshaya paryagachanti Brg Agastya Mrga Vyadadayascha. Knew the star Agastya, Canopus, Bhrigu, and then Mrga Vyada, Sirius, as the brightest star, they knew about it. Etat sarvam asheshato bruvatu. That green one I have put because the irregular Vedic usage.
Maybe.
Correct. It's a Arsha Prayoga. So when I checked with the Vedikas, they all said, yes sir, this is all Arsha. Please do that because this is very important. It is Arsha Prayoga. Kurvati, Kurvatu, all such words are used. Bruvatu, Bruvante, Bruvanti, the Atmanepada, Parasmanepada mixed up, and also differentiating between Ajayata and Jayate and all that. The description, Parasmanepada and Atmanepada differences are also there. We have to go into I have not done that. So I am not a linguist. I clearly said in the beginning itself, I am looking at only the content. I am not looking into the language. I am not going into the other issues of that, Somebody else has to do that. Anyway, there are nearly 100 questions and the answers are there. First, it starts with creation cosmos. There is some introduction, I am removed it. Salilimiva asi dande tamasi niramaye loke tatra andam divya roopam adbhatam sambhabuva. Andam mahat pramanam itaschetascha sandhavati. Tatra brahma atmanam asrjata. Simple Sanskrit, all of you can understand. Tatra dvida andam abhavat. That is, somebody asked me about Big Bang in the morning. It is the big split. It is the Hiranyagarbha that anda breaking, and it's a model. Don't ask me whether this person was present to see that. And what he says is, Brahma Atmanam Asrjata. He himself self-created. Everything is self-similar. The modern physicists would like it. Sorry?
No, I'm reading the Andam Mahat.
No, Tatra Dvida Andam Abhavat. It became two. It split. Tase Adastat Kapalam.
First green. Andam Mahat Pramanam.
Is a very large one. It's it's there. It's a very large one. That's all what it says, Mahat Pramanam. And there is some slight itascha sandhavati. I don't know whether I can attach meaning to each and every letter or word, but there is some chalana, spandana, what the tantrikas may say or whatever. They would have got information from all of this, only their theory they have developed later on. The Vedantas, the tantrikas, all of the Pratyabhijna people only from this kind of text. They might have had exposure to this. This would have been known to them in some manner, because there are 11 manuscripts even today, available for this. If a text has more than 3 manuscripts, you can know that Hindus consider it extremely important. They wrote and sent it to all the places all over India. And that is how many of the manuscripts, you have multiple manuscripts, 3, 4, 10, 20. Some of the Apastamba Sutra and all that, if you see, there are 15, 20 manuscripts are available. And each one writing it for himself and keeping it in the family. Anyway, then Adastat Kapalam Tat Pratitam Tasya Chaivam Prathanat Prithvi. Because it extended, it is called Prithvi. This Prithvi is not the present day globe, it's not the present day earth. It is because the extended thing, up to the horizon, whatever is seen, that is Prithvi. Because the Dyauha has to come and intersect there. And in between what is seen is the Antariksha. Antariksha definition is also given there. Antaram yenam apikshate kshiti cha antarastitam atrava. There is alternate meaning given. Kshiyante sarva eva bhutagramaha ityetat evam antariksha. All whatever you see has to die only in this part. So that is why it is called antariksha. Anyway, that is a description. Then he gives the Vedic creation. Sovacha bhuriti bhuvam, bhuvaiti antariksham, suvariti devan. This comes up in the Rig Veda also, and Sayanacharya has commented on this. The original matter from which all the creation was done, they imagine that there is some matter, primal matter. And that primal matter was called Abhuhu. From that Abhuhu, everything got created is what in the Rigvedic meaning he says. Here also it is something, everything was in tamas. Ande tamasi niramaya loke. Everything was in equilibrium. And in tamasi, how would you translate it?
Darkness.
It's not darkness or dark matter. That is so I have translated as dark matter. Because something has to come out of it, And even light comes later on. He says that. And what happened later on, they imagine a homa, a large fire sacrifice. It is not a small homa, it is a large sacrifice. The important thing is about Purvameva Tejasa Agnim Asarjata. He had already created Agni. What was that Agni? It's not clear here. But in the Aitareya Aranyaka, it is Aditya, he says. Aditya was created first, is what he says. He is also called Agni. Aditya is not, maybe the present day sun or a proto-sun. Maybe a proto-sun. In fact, here I have taken it as proto only.
It just mean nuclear process.
Sorry?
It could just mean the nuclear process, right? It could just
It
could just mean fission.
No, today this is the model we give.
Okay.
Nobody has gone to the sun and touched and seen whether it's nuclear or not.
That is true.
Even though Russians took away all the uranium from Iranian places, we don't know what was the thing there. Anyway, these are models. I respect that model. There are correspondence here. It's a parallel. These are all models of that. But a fantastic model. And the creation of science in India and how science originated originally in India, you can see here. Not from the Western intrusion. It might have happened later on. But here itself.
Sir, may I?
And then you can see each time he keeps on the Brahma. It is not any god or anything of that kind. But tatas tasmat purvam jwalitarchihi jukhvan uto Bhrigu rajayata. Bhrigu, I am taking it as not Bhrigu Maharshi, even though the Purana is the Bhrigu Maharshi, was the first created. It is Bhrigu is Shukra, proto-Venus. Because all through, Venus is the first planet. Only in the later Siddhantic period, Brihaspati became important more. But before that, it was the Shukra who was more important. And let us understand that astronomically, Shukra is more important. And I will come to that. I don't think I will have time for that today. Then Tatra Angiraha Samabhat. Angiraha is coal. It is only that fire was there. That fire remained. And in that fire, Tasmat Swaha Karo Angirasam Asrujata. In that Angira, he created Angirasa. Angirasa later on became Garga, because Garga belongs to the Angirasa Gotra. So he is also called Angirasa. That is a different matter. But this is going to be Brihaspati, Guru. Later on, whom we call Guru. Tacha punaha prajwalya agnim juhoti asmin swahakare kashyapaha ajayata tatra angiraha samabhavad swahakare vasishta pakshaha ajayata. Vasishta paksha is going to be the Saptarshis. That is, the Vasishta and his group was created. The Saptarshis were created. Panchame swahakare gauh ajayata. In the fifth swahakara, in the fifth sequence, gauh is not the present day cow. We have to go into the Nirukta to understand this. Because he says in the Purusha Sukta, you see that you have the Mesha. The meaning for Mesha is Mishati iti Meshaha. It is not the one which is given in the Bakrid or whatever. That is not the Mesha which we have to take. Mishati is something which is shining, which looks like some ice. Shining ice is Mishati, that is called Mesha. What it is, he also does not say. And from that, Gauhu Ajayata. Gauhu is only rays which are coming out. Nirukta also says it is not the cow which we milk today. There may be correspondence because everything is self-similar. So self-similarity may be maintained, Upamana may be maintained, and Samya will be maintained. It is true. But in the first thing, it cannot be that. These are all the proto-archetypes. And you can see, Shashte Swahakare Tejaha Ajayana. Tejas or energy or radiance, what you may call, it came up only in the sixth one after the Gauh. So I cannot say after the cows, the light came up. It is first the rays, maybe the rays took some time for them to realize or whatever, and then the light came up. Otherwise, in the darkness, light was also not there. So it was andhe tamasi, that is why he uses the word anda. It is such pitch darkness is the dark matter. And how much of the dark matter is remaining, don't ask me, but it should be there somewhere. And this is not new. It is from Rigveda. Tama asit tamasa guldham agre apraketam salilam sarvamaidam. This salila is not water. Apavaidam agre salilam asit is a later one in the Ayurvedic thing. This salila, this what we call today water, was salila in those days or what? It should be something they would have imagined, And later on, in fact, you see, there is a lot of difference of opinion on this, obviously, because they were great thinkers. They won't accept simply because somebody, another Rishi has said, they won't accept it. In the Shatapatha Brahmana, it says, Mana eva asit. In the earlier, asadasit, asadasit, it questions, Mana eva asit. It is the manas which was there in the beginning, And that itself is the creative material or the primal material, which many today philosophers also would say it is a universal consciousness, and consciousness studies, so many things are happening, they will go along those lines. So this is something which is debatable by the traditional people themselves, but I haven't seen any discussion on this. Manusmriti also says this, the tamo bhutam aprajnatam alakshanam and all that. Now, Prithvi geography is given, some geography, that is very similar to what comes in other places, but the important thing is, it talks about Saraswati river. And that is the important thing of this text. Because of the 7 rivers, Saraswati is the most important. Say, Ashoshyanam punyanam kalmasha nashaninam tasam Saraswati shreshtatama. That is there. Not even the others. Is the shreshtatama is Saraswati. The 7 are the 5 of the Punjab, the 5 rivers, Ganga and Saraswati. These are the 7 rivers of that time. And this is the kind of some geography which is given, and it also talks of 4 dvipas, not 7 dvipas. And when there is Suryodaya in Jyotiṣa, it is going to be afternoon in Jambu Dvipa, evening in Ketumala, and in Uttar Kuru it is midnight. It is the same thing which Siddhantic astronomers took later on. Along the celestial equator, they put 90 degrees and all that. If it is Suryodaya, then with reference to Suryodaya, it is going to be this. Only they use degree. Whereas this man did not yet know about degree division. He took up morning, afternoon, evening and night. It's also a circle. It is also the diurnal kind of thing. And you see later on, there is in the 40th one, Brihatvat nahi antariksha bhumibhyam parisankyanam asti. The word bhumi comes up. The bhumi is where the water falls, rain fall. So the bhumi concept was there, where habitation is there, where human beings are living. But Prithvi may extend up to the horizon, whatever is the visible horizon.
And I think in Nyaya Shastra, Prithvi is a matter, just matter. Tarka Shastra. Tarka Shastra, Nyaya Shastra. The Prithvi is not earth. The globe is not.
I know. Prithvi Lakshanam is the Gandhavati Prithvi. They are all later developments. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them only argumentative. Then they will say, if you argue further with them, we had an argument in Niyas last week on this matter, and also with the Tarkikas from Navadvi from Calcutta. He finally said, yes, this is anavastha. Otherwise, that is why we stop here. Why you stop in Paramanu? Why there is no Paramanu for Kala? No, 4 Paramanus are sufficient. Laghavat, okay. Why Paramanu cannot be divided further? Anavastha. You should not stop there. Here there are no such concepts. They want to discuss everything threadbare, whether we agree or not. This belongs to a different genre of discussion. It is not as closed as Nyaya Shastra, Prachina Nyaya. I am not criticizing Nyaya, I like that, but there is something different here. Brihatvat nahi antariksha bhumibhyam parisankhyanam asti. Tiryagurdvam vayavadevahi urdvam prithvi tiryak tavadevam antariksham. It's a very tough thing. What he says is, it is the Vayu which is blowing. It is the original Vayu, not the Tarkika Vayus. It is the original Vayu which is there. He discusses that. And Vayu is called the Purna Deva in the Vedas, So Vayu is the most important thing. And whether it is the air, what we call, not necessary. It is not necessarily only O2. There may be Vayu in the troposphere, in the cenosphere, and all those spheres also. There are some kind of movement which is happening, And Vayava Devahi Tiryak Urdhvam. Prithvi is Tiryak, also Urdhvam. It is horizontal and vertical. What is the meaning of that? It is oblique. Tiryak is cross. Is it vertical? Not necessary. There is a Meru is there. It is connected with that. But the Vayu has made Prithvi to be Tiryak Urdhvam. Even the Antariksham is Tiryak Urdhvam. Because he has to argue about sun and the directions. See, the directions are fixed only with reference to sun. Where sun rises, that is Purva. That is what he says. The names also come from that. It is so original. The name Dakshina comes because sun moves Dakshina to my right side. When I see in the east, I stand looking at the east, he moves to the south. In the northern hemisphere, sun always moves to the south, in the diurnal motion. But around what? Is it around me? He says around Meru. It is around Meru he goes Pradakshinam. And that Meru is the concept which goes to the Dhruva and all those, is fixed with the Dhruva. During this time, Dhruva was not fixed. Dhruva had already moved. Maybe they did not know that. That is a different matter. But those things are there. And also, Kala Vibhaga Siddhyartham Dvipan Bhavayataha Somarkav Astamayataha Udayatova Merunatu Channau Na Prakashete. He gives the definition. Tato Ratri Nama Pranashtarka Meruchaya Bhavati. If there is darkness, it is due to the Meruchaya, shadow, that is Ratri. It is the definition of Ratri. Even today that definition would apply, In the eastern hemisphere, when sun has gone to the other side, there is darkness here. So they had that suspicion. They had a model of the Meru as though it is an invisible Parvata, but it was creating a shadow that comes from the Aitareya Aranyaka. In the Aitareya Aranyaka, there is only two directions. He says, there is no Nastamayati, na Udayati, there is a long mantra. For Savita, there is no rise, there is no set. When it is on that side, people say it is morning. When it is on that side, it is said night. Which side he doesn't say. But this extends that to 4. There was only morning and evening there, morning and night. Here there are 4. So it is an extension of that Aitareya Aranyaka. But the Meru concept was not needed as they went further. They discriminated between Bhumi and Prithvi as the astronomy developed and more. And it goes on like this. I have to come to the astrology part. Maybe after another 5 minutes I will close up this. He discusses sun, all the things, whatever the question was asked, everything is discussed in great detail. Okay, I have given the Aitareya Brahmana statement there. Sava yeshana kadachanam asteti no deti. It is the 2 divisions. Here there are the 4 divisions. Okay. Yeah, and about the moon. Moon observation is given, and it says Chandrama 5 colors are drunk on Panchami and on Dashami. It is a 15 they wanted for the Paksha, but you can see the reason is each day 1 kala was taken in the Brahmanda Purana, that is what it says. There is a later text. Here there is an observational thing, because you can't discriminate between Purnima and even the Prathama or the Chaturdashi and the Purnima, because the brightness of moon is so much. To differentiate when the Purnima came up, when the Chaturdashi ended, you can't do observationally, unless you have all the observation facilities. But nevertheless, 15 was the basic. So they say that it is in groups of 5. 5, 5, 5, because that is where the slope changes of the brightness, From the 5th day to the 10th day, the decrease in brightness is very sharp. I have given the details there, it's very sharp. Later on it again becomes slow. So that is why they are divided into 5. This is important again, because even Varahamihira in his Brihad Samhita, towards the last, in the Tithi Adhyaya, he gives, in the ancient time there are only 5 Tithis, Nandra, Bhadra, something else, he gives the 5 names, and they are repeated. 3 times to get a Paksha is what he says. These are all important for the calendars. And that Sannaya is here. Sasapurna avasarati iti paurnamasi asyat taddeva asura pakshe bhakshayante sa bhakshamanaha swayonivat shasya apa voshadi vanaspati brahmanan gascha yeshu vasati. On Amavasya day, he is going to be in, Soma is going to be in earth with these people. Amavasyayaha amavasyatvam, because he stays with the Amas, that is called Amavasya, the definition. Tasmat sannayena amavasyam sannayati. Then he takes further. Sannayatvam bhavati. That is the Sizigi, as in modern astronomy it is called, exact position. Then darsha happens. Sannato pare paschat drishit. Then only he is seen on the other side. This was developed into the yaga, but the yaga you can say as an experimentation also. This is the practice as religious things. Okay, you can take it like that. But from when an intelligent man does something repeatedly, after all, they were curious people, did they do it only blindfold, the Darshapurna? They would have thought about all these things. They would have seen eclipses. You can't do that without seeing an eclipse, either on the Amavasya day or on the Purnima day. So, the Jyotishis among them, are the thinkers, who are called the Nakshatra Darsha in the Veda. They have brought up all the intellectual tradition of the astronomy, including the Garga and Parashara group, And there is a theory on that. And this is from the Shadvimsha Brahmana. Shadvimsha Brahmana also is the same thing. Prathamam Panchakalam Panchamim Bhakshayanti. Same concept. So that is why this belongs to the Brahmana period. Shadvimsha Brahmana belongs to the Samavedic period, Samaveda branch. And the Kshaya Vṛddhi of moon is explained there also in the same way. These are my arguments for that. So, and this Purnatithi I already mentioned, Purnatithi Paurnamasam Kalo Bhavati, that is there in the Mahabhashya also. People have not looked into the Mahabhashya. Purnamasaha vartate asmin kale Paurnamasi titihi. That is the definition and the description which is given. In that Kala.
How long will be that Kala?
How?
Long.
It is instantaneous, sir. It may be 10 to the power minus 24 seconds. Purnima day is 30 Muhurta. Purnima Tithi is not that. This is the important, that Kala is that. This is the concept. This is how the numbering, this is how the continuity concept, this is how the differentiability concept, this is how the zero concept has arisen in India. The number concept has come up. That is the Soma concept. The Soma is the Kala. Is Kala divisible or Kala is whole? You have to tell me. So all that comes up from, these are the questions. These are not Siddhantas. I will say, this is my view, take it or leave it. No. There are all the discussions, intellectual discussions, like present day scientists may do in the published papers. They have also done that. Only thing is they sat along the river beds or somewhere. They spent their time talking about this and somebody remembered, recorded and then given to us this one, Anyway, this is all IKS. So if you want to promote IKS, you please do all of this. That's all what I can say. And once again, that Mukhametat Prajapati have done. Okay. Now, these planets, what is the brightness of that, he asked. He gives the thing. Vedoktanam grahanam ashtashatam sankhyaayate. Vedokta, there are 108 grahas, whether you like it or not. Tatra ekashatam ketunam patyate. There are 101 ketus. Soma Arkau Panchacha Tara Graha. Soma Arka 2 and Pancha Tara Graha. Pancha Tara Graha is the standard word for planets even in the Siddhanta. They are the 5 grahas. Tasmat Ashtashata Sankhyaite. That is why 108 are there. And Nigrahartam Graha Prajanan Devaihi Utpadita. It's okay, that is another thing. And then he says Shukla Varnasya Chandramaso Pragdvarashte Eshaha Tesham Prathamam Kshatriyanam Patyate Angirasah Dvadasha Rashmihi Brahaspati. Oh, Shodasha Rashmihi Shukla Varnas Rashmaya Shodasha. He has 16. I have given a table here. Surya has 1000 rays. He is Sahasrarchi, And Chandra is Shatarchi, 100. Shukra is 16. Brahaspati is 12. Angaraka is 9. They are all given there. Shani is 5. Buddha is 7. Buddha is brighter than Shani, even though Buddha is the Panchama Graha. They knew him only after Shani. They call him he is the 5th Graha only. So their discovery was later. And I have put a graph of the modern magnitudes versus the Rashmi. You can see the correlation for yourself. I have not fudged it or I have not added any of my things into that.
Actually, you showed this graph last time also. You showed this graph. You showed this graph last time also. I remember the ratio of luminosities graph.
Oh, that
last time also you showed.
The computer analysis in
yes.
IKS.
It was,
this is all with of course, this is a computer graph. There the dating was computerized, because you had to do something like 10 million calculations, That I could not do, the minimum error requirement and all that.
But the fitting
that's why I did not want to extend it.
Astonishing.
But you can see the correlation.
I remember I
It's a
told you.
realistic observation,
Yes.
This is a realistic observation. Without observation, you can't do these things.
So the ratio is the same. The ratios, when you are 16 by 12 and 4.8 by 3, that comes in a straight slope. The slope is
it
perfect.
is the logarithmic thing.
Logarithmic scale.
Natural logarithms on y. Otherwise, you get an exponential.
Yes,
you can sit in a line. Somebody asked me, I said, I am not going to do that.
No.
These are not the modern magnitude.
No, those days, that means they have put on the logarithmic scale. The 12, 9 and all written Rashmi numbers is the logarithmic scale is written. That's why it came in a straight line. No.
True. They are realistic things. They are observational. They wanted to measure.
Yeah.
Let us be very clear. Without measurement, there is no ancient text. Without quantification, there is no ancient.
But how could they measure the luminosity?
They wanted to measure.
So could they see Shani, Saturn?
Sorry?
How did they see
How could they measure the luminosity is my question.
How did they?
How did they measure the luminosity? It
They
is so
could not
accurate.
measure. Let me tell you, it's not the measurement of luminosity. In the night, if you see the things which are coming. They were to remember and compare. And only thing what I have seen in all these texts is the spatial thing they remembered. If Graha, today we don't bother about it, occupies some point, tomorrow it occupies some other point, day after tomorrow some other point. What was that? That picture they remembered. It's the spatial thing they remembered. And they gave the name also based on it. Vyalamukha, Nistrimshamushala, and other names for Angaraka and others. And in the morning I showed you the moon's thing. How did they do that? They would have observed and done something trick. Their own trick they would have done, or yukti you may call it. Later on it was called yukti. So now it has become a big word, yukti. Yukti is there already from the Vedic time. They had to do that. And it is all life. It is intellectual life they were leading. And it was not separated from Dyauh. Because Dyauh Pita Prithvi Mata. For them everything was together, They were not separated like us. Probably you may say like they were more childlike. They took the whole universe as themselves and in terms of that they observed, they modeled. Quite possible. And that is what has come down to us in a particular language. Well, anyway, let me proceed
But is
further.
this frightening? Is this
Then Rahu, it says Rahu is called Agantu. Agantu in Sanskrit means who comes without invitation. Suddenly he comes. You don't like him actually. And he's an Agantu, he has somehow come. And he is called Agantu. Aparha Agantuhu is a pejorative word actually. Mrityuputraha Mahatamaskaha Rahuhu Ugran Tapaha Taptavan. Okay, there is a story. And he asked for that Brahma Pritaha Varadaha Chandradityo Grasishyasi Natu Yetav Jarayishyasi. You can capture them, but you can't digest them. And so what happens? Savai Shanmasya Parvani Yugapad Upatishtati. He comes and sits there every 6 months. Shanmasya Parvani. So there are two different things. You can't say Parva is only Amavasya and Purnima. That would be wrong. Parva is going to be Purnatithi and Sanaya. That he won't say that. So this Parvani, generally in classical Sanskrit, it is going to be only Amavasya Purnima. Here not that. It has to be Shanmasya. Every 6 months. In that particular Parvani, he sits there, Yugapad Upatishtati, along with them. Shariram akrutva shiro varnan vidarshayan bahubishcha varna samsthanaihi grahana mokshabhyam himsati prajaha. Does he capture every 6 months? It's a possibility. It's a very great information because it comes up later on in Parashara Tantra and in others, in Rahuchara also, which is yet to be edited. Every 6 months eclipse can be observed for 7 sequences only. If there are 7 sequences of lunar eclipse, that is what is called a semester and a tetrad. Tetrad are going to be 3 total lunar eclipses, followed by 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. It is not what I called in the morning, the Saros, which is for 18 years. This is possible only for 3.5 years. 42 Purnimas only it is available. Brihasamhita has on that. He gives only the portents. It's called who are the Parveshadhyaya, it is there. Who are the Parveshas? Kubera, Brahma, Danada, something he gives. They are the names. But the concept comes from here. And in 1492, a sequence of 7 eclipses were observed in the Rajasthan region, lunar, at 6 monthly interval. So 6 monthly interval things are the maximum possible. We have the statistics also on that. So people would be believing 6 monthly an eclipse is possible. This is a lunar is what I am telling. So that is also here. And then the Ketu. Ketu is given. Dhumketavaha Pradurbhuta. He gives a description also, and which I have given in the green you can see. Chaturhastaha Tesham. He gives different names. Shodasha Agniputraha Raktavarnaha Trihastaha. Their length is only 3 hasta. Hasta is this much. So that length, somehow they would have roughly, we have to say. And these are the Dhumaketus which are important. And why I stress this is, this has been continued by both Parashara and Vṛddhagārgīya. The Vṛddhagārgīya in the 7th Ketumala Adhyaya has the following shlokas. Sarvesha Brahmana Loke Dharayanti Jitendriyaha Vedartaniva Yatnena Prasanna Manasodhyataha. They should remember the sequence of Ketus, the 101 names, like the way as they preserve the Vedartha. Not only then, Bhavishyanti Yada Sarve Yadiva Dharma Buddhaya Ketu Darshana Durgani Karishyanti Cha Sarvashaha. Seeing the observatories of Ketu, the Dharmikas are going to create is mentioned there. They observed Ketus carefully till about some disaster happened. The whole thing was forgotten. And that is so in the Parashara Hora and all that, Ketu is only 7-year Dasha came up. Because the 7-year thing is a short period comments they have observed. That is mentioned in the Parashara Tantra, some of them. But Varahamihir and others omitted this because it is not amenable for mathematics. Ganitena nasadhyam, he writes. So he omitted, I say only what Vṛddhagārgīya and Parashara have said. But it started from here. It starts from the Vedas. And that comes from the Rigveda. Basa Ketu, Dhuma Ketu. Dhuma Ketu is there in the Rigveda. So from there it has come. I had to come to Soma fast, So the Dhruva Meru is there, I will skip this. And stars and dimensions are there. Then Soma Rohini legend, Soma is partial to the bright star Rohini. This is all known. That Rohini is identified as a modern thing, Aldebaran as a star. Is retold in MS means Mahāsalilaṁ with new information. The details are there. I can't cover that. The story is only Daksha Prajapati had 27 daughters. Now he was given to Soma to follow dharma, and Soma, it is said, he stayed only with Rohini. And the others complain to Prajapati. So then Prajapati says, I will call Chandrama. The word used, you have to be careful. Originally Soma. I have given that in the 88. Atha Chandramasam uvacha Bhagavan Prajapatihi. Anritavagasi. Tasmat tvam Rajayakshma Graha Grahishyati iti. This comes up in the Vedas, The Veda text, the Taitiri Brahmana, Kataka Brahmana, they are more realistic than the Puranas because of the words which are imparted there, the technical words. Rohini cha abruvan ma abhicharam vartasva iti Bhaginiha. The Bhagini said, told Rohini, don't do this kind of thing and all that. Tasmat Somaha Rajayakshmana Grihitaha. Not Chandra. Soma was Rajayakshmana Grihitaha. Then Somaha Nirasravat. Parabhavacha. These two words are Vedic. Nirasravat, Parabhavacha, from the Taitiri also it comes. Maitranya. Then what happens? Saha Prajapatim Abhyeva Gachan. He understood Prajapati after this. What did Abhyeva Gachan? Abhi Avagachan. Avagachan is he understood. How? Itordvam Tanicha Rikshani Nakshatram. Tanicha Rikshani, which he had married. All those rikshas will become nakshatra. Rohini was a single star. After this, there are 5 stars in Rohini. Rohini Shakata has 5 stars. All through after this period. In the Atharva Veda Parishishta, it is a single star. I have given the comparison. Jainas, Bauddha, Shardula Karnavadana, whether it is the Brihat Samhita, whether it is the earlier Parashara, or whether it is the Vṛddhagārgīya, later on the Gargiya followers, they all have 5. The total number of stars is 86, not 27. 27 is only the equal divisions. That Samavartate, it comes later on. So, Prajapatim Abhyeva Gachan Itordum Tanicha Rikshani Nakshatram. Prasidatu Bhagavan Visrishtavan Ayam Ichchami iti Abravit. Tataha Sapatniha Bhagavan Syaditi. Tataha Prabhati Somaha Sarvasu Vartate Ahoratra. There is some missing word, that is Samavat Sarvasu Vartate in the Veda. Here in the manuscript it is not there, so I put a dotted line. Because there also it's a dotted line, but it should be Samavat Vartate. It is the equal division. So equal division of the ecliptic, which is there in the Lagada and all that, it is there from here. And why did that happen? That's also available. And there are many instances Vedic Brahman, Prajapati is reckoned with either 16 or 17 parts. There is a Shodasha Kala Prajapati, Saptadasha Kala Prajapati is also there. And it discusses that how that 17th Kala was removed and that became the 0 point for the Soma. And why this Soma was so important, I have given some of the descriptions here. Deva vai Soma, Diviho Soma, Vrutro vai Somaha, Shatabad Brahmana. Everything is Soma, Soma, Soma. And that Soma is actually Kala. And that Kala, if you see before this period is 1800 BC, it can be shown. What is meant by Rohini legend? That comes up in the astrological thing, because when moon mixes with Rohini, Sthira karmas would be done. Because Soma combined with Rohini once upon a time, permanently, loving Rohini stayed. And the indications are there further. That comes up in the Kataka Samhita. before about 1800 BC, around 2000 BC or so, Rohini Nakshatra was the star in the Vasanta Rutu. It was seen rising in the Vasanta Rutu. So, Samvatsara Prajapati, then Prajapati Rupa, and that mantra is there. I don't think I have given it here, but it is in the book. The Prajapati Rupa is when in the Vasanta Rutu, sun is seen along with Rohini. It is a heliacal rising, Rohini rises, later on sun rises. That is roughly near the equinox. And that is the nakshatra meant for Annaprasana. That is in the Katak Samhita. Because it is Prajapati Rupa. Why Prajapati? Because Prajapati was born in the big split after 1 year. Samvatsara abhavat, at Velayam Samvatsara abhavat it comes. So it was shaking. The waves were shaking. Vela is going to be the waves, And Prajapati Rupa came up after 1 year. That is why human beings are born after 1 year. It is there in the Aranyakas and the Brahmanas, And that is what he said. That is why the Annaprasana is done in the Rohini Nakshatra. Because Prajapati came up there and he was lovingly with Rohini in the Vasanta Rutu. That description comes up. I have given those details. But when this happened, why there was a disturbance? It was always he was going equally, Chandra says, but Soma got disturbed. That is, the Prajapati got disturbed. That is, the year got disturbed. The Samvatsara got disturbed. Then they realized, you take only 27 nakshatras as equal, we can get 366 days. There is a development which has happened. And if that has to be seen, we have to spend too much time. I will not do that. That mantra is here, you can see it. Yadodanam prashnat etadeva sarvam arudhva tadasmin ekada dadate rohinyam kriyate yad brahmana rohini asmad udyati surye kriyate etadvai prajapatehe rupam yarheshu udeti sarva etam prajaha pratinindanti didrukshinyoha darshaniyo bhavati. This is the Prajapati becoming the Samvatsara and he getting disturbed. Because he was lovingly with Rohini only. It is the same Prajapati, it is the same Soma, it is all mana acting. Because it is a self-similarity which is there. Soma is Kala, Kala Pratika is Chandra. So Prajapati is somebody there. He calls Chandra and why are you doing like this? It is not Krishna Paksha here, it is not Krishna Paksha. It is clearly, he has to be with Rohini, he has to sort it out. So the Riksha becomes a nakshatra. Rikshani nakshatram bhavati. That is in Napumsakalinga only. Later on, this Strilinga comes from the nakshatras because the nakshatras are by property, they are all stris. They are neither pum nor napumsakas. So this is a dramatic dialogue among the celestial participants for cosmic purposes. The abstract Soma is invoked. See, he is from the Rigveda. I have given some 3 pages of notes here. You may read it later on. So, Rohini, which was considered a single star, it became 5 stars. Then what happens next? Astrology develops. Tatha Soma Uvacha. Evamastu atato Bhagavan etastava duhitarha tulya dakshinyaha aham apicha saumyat somaha. But what you have to do? Karmanancha ugra kshipra dhruva daruna mruduchara sadharananam karmakalaho jagato nirvartitavyaha kathamatramaya anušteyam ite. Because Prajapati orders, I given you my daughter so that you can do this, you can show to the world. Ugra kshipra dhruva daruna, these kind of works when it has to be done. That is the Muhurta Jyotiṣa, when the time has to come with the Chandra. And Chandra asks, I am a neutral man, your daughters also have equal attitude. How to show this difference? There has to be an anomaly. Then he says there is an anomaly. Well, anyway, this is the table for the nakshatras. I will skip this. 27, how many stars are there? He says, in answer, Prajapati says, stay in the nakshatras vikarana dharmana tishtasva. What is vikarana dharma? He says vikarana dharma is two examples he gives. Long back, Soma stayed with Kritika nakshatra as Agni. So that is why it is called Agni Daivata. That Agni Daivata, whatever is the quality Soma had in that anomaly, that is the Vikarana. Vikarana is only an anomaly, I cannot translate it as anything else. That Dharma is shown by Chandra when he is in Kritika nakshatra. Then the actions which correspond to the Daivata property of the Agni property can all be done on the by human beings, including Kanyopanayanam Kuryat, because Kanyopanayana can be done because it is strong, Agni. The Stris are Agni actually, according to that. And then, not only that, you can do Smiti work, you can eat chilies or whatever, it is fiery. All those qualities which are related, not in one way, but in similarity ways, and you can make bhanda, patra, because the smiti has to do that, in the fireworks and all that, coins, all that can be done in the Kritika nakshatra, which is Agni. He gives one more example, that is the sthira karyas can all be done in Rohini, because Prajapati stayed sthira with Rohini, which the story was previously given, and that was here, Because he stayed once, all sthira nakshatras in Rohini can be done when Chandra is there. He also goes to the next one. That is the Soma, when Mrigashira, it is with the Saumya quality, because the Soma is the Devata for that. We take it as Soma as Chandra, that is different. But the thing goes to the original Brahmanas, where the Prajapati Duhitru Upakhyana, where Prajapati chases daughter, and then the Rudra, that arrow is put, and that arrow goes and sticks to Mrigashira, and he becomes Saumya in that nakshatra. So that is why Soma is the Devata of that. These are all actions which happened long back, is what he says. They are going to be the Rigvedic actions only. At least 3 or 4 were located in the more ancient things. There should be a few more. All the 27, my feeling is, can be located. If somebody looks into the nakshatra names and the devata names which are there in the Rigveda, don't imagine those devata names are only what Sayana has said, it has to be taken only like that. There may be meanings associated with them, actions, like the Ashwa and all that, which we have, to some extent we have done. So he says all the 27 can be decided like that. Mahāsalilaṁ doesn't give all the details, it gives only 2. The others are available in the first Adhyaya, Nakshatra Karma Guna Adhyaya, which you have edited and given. Appendix, it has been added here. So if somebody is interested, they can know. Even Punarvasu, what can be done. Punarvasu Nakshatra goes to such extent, the social systems of those days, whether they are going to dig, in which nakshatra they can steal. They had to have for Taskaras also something. So in the Niriti nakshatra, you say you can go and steal and all that. In Punarvasu nakshatra, you can cheat your neighbor and things like that, That was a later social thing which might have come. Anyway, Sarveshu cha eteshu nakshatreshu stri pumsaka lingani nipatanti. It is the Vaiyakarana linga in all these nakshatras. Yatha pushyaha iti pullinga nakshatre na pumsaka lingam sarvani etani nakshatrani striyaha eva. To etani jagati sanyam labhante. Sanya is different in the loka. Soma daivatani sarvani. All of these are Soma daivata only. Patirhi devatam strinam bhavati. Soma patyascha etaha. Yadapi anyai grahaihi sanyuktani akarmanyani bhavanti. The language is very archaic. We have to structure it, divide it, where the Kriyapada has to come, where the subject has to come, and then make the meaning. All these are, Soma is the Devata. Soma is the Kala. Kala is the Devata. Chandra is the Pratika for Soma. And he will be moving uniformly. That is the average Madhyamadikara of the later Siddhantic astronomy, is what is there here, Astrology is yadipi anyai grahaihi sanyuktane. It is a principle, it is a theory. Akarmanyani bhavanti. It is purely with only Soma because he is the Lord. Good things, whatever is the ideal things, the normal average properties, like average rainfall of IMD, if everything is there, it is going to be the average thing. If there are perturbations, if something changes, changes happen. If other grahas come, they disturb this property. That is the astrology which he develops. Tad Vyakyasyamaha, he says, Somastvetani nakshatrani somatmakat upasevyamani apyayi. Yoga comes up. Garma tejas tvadanat adityo nakshatra tejamse adate. Now even today I have heard people say, if there is Surya with that, then it is Dagda. The property goes out and all. It's from here. Tasmat aditya sanyukta nakshatram akarmanyam bhavati. If you are considering only Aditya and this, it becomes Akarmanya. If it is combined with Amavasya. They knew when Chandra can be with a nakshatra and Surya can also be there, it is only Amavasya. So, I don't know, people may give different interpretation. The meaning is here that, because the power is taken away is what he says. Sarva eva Surya Brahaspati Angaraka Buddha Shanaishchara Rahuketavo Nakshratranam upasarga daivato pushtaha. So if these grahas are combined, they get some property of the devata they attract for themselves. Was the Soma's property which was there. So that is why Nakshatrani Samsparsha Udaya, all these reasons are there. There are 15 ways that can combine, 11 ways the Graha Yuddha can happen, all those details, permutation, combination, all of that comes later on. But this is more on Nirgata Kampa Ulka Parivesha Tamamsi. It is for the country, what is the wrong thing which is going to happen? Utpata. The earthquakes, the ulkas, the eclipses, and so many things he says. Sorry?
Or invasion.
Yeah, maybe. That may also happen. Later on, they have mentioned that also Parachakra, Agamana, and all that. It is there, yeah. You're right. There is a small bit on natal astrology also. Nakshatreshu pidyamaneshu nakshatra daivata karma janma samshritanam karmana va upasargaha bhavati. Nacha ete grahaha nakshatreshu somaha bhavati. This is, there is a karma nakshatra and there is janma nakshatra. If in those nakshatras, if there is upasarga, the other nakshatras may be free. It is not full here. I will come to that. I will tell you why. If some upasarga happens, upasarga is not necessarily only eclipse. It is something which is nearby, sitting. Like somebody wants to capture something, is a graha is sitting. Maybe even Rahu may be sitting near. It's also possible. So graha nakshatreshu so na bhavati. They don't become soma. They can't attract that soma and give a good thing. Sometimes good happens, he explains that later on. Nakshatras troubled activities as per the deities of the karma and janma natal nakshatras get affected. I have given a note, but let me see whether I have something. Marga Gatya Chara Visheshat. Okay. Yasya Nakshatram Kal, he comes to the time because the Muhurta comes. How much time he stays, that much time you can do the work and all that. This has been expanded further, adding Tithi, Yoga, and Karana, the three more, in the Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa, the earlier chapters. That means, from Mahāsalilaṁ there is only Nakshatra, there is nothing else. They knew Karana and all that. They might have known Tithi also, but this astrological thing is not there. And the Pidasthana he gives. Tatrakalu Grahanam Nakshatreshu Ekadasha Vidam Pidasthanam Bhavati. He says Prarthita, Avekshita, Prayukta, Preshita. This is common to both Parashara and Vṛddhagārgīya. How the grahas are there with the nakshatras. They are like requesting. It is all, you can put it in terms of color, geometry. If you know the modern astronomical thing in terms of declination, longitude and all that. But they had only verbal descriptions, anecdotal descriptions. So the 11 ways he gives that, how it is. Say Kridita, then Amredita is going back and forth, the Vakragati, arm right here, goes forth and comes back kind of thing. Those kind of things, Akranta Ahatani, this is because gives some particular kind of effects. Jyotisham Panchavidantu Anugruhnante. 5 ways graha. Nakshatrani Pradakshana Antarita. If they are going Pradakshina, then they give good things, and so on and so forth. This is all the astrological thing. And he also gives finally Ete Buddha Shanaishchara Angaraka Brihaspati Shukra Rahu Ketavaha Viryataha Uttarottaram Balavattaraha. So Buddha is the weakest, Shanaishchara is the slightly stronger, Angaraka still stronger, next Brihaspati, then Shukra is the strongest. Stronger than that is Rahu and Ketu. This is their power positions which he gives, So for prediction, this becomes important, So, okay, we'll skip this. Yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. This I given in another place. These are the 27 nakshatras. All the nakshatras have description, how to identify them. This is a very important thing. Either in terms of their own name, you can say Kritika, it looks like a sword. It has to cut. You can see the topmost thing. The 5 stars are heavy dots. Simply join them by some rough line. It looks like what you call a wall or a aruval. Similarly, you can see the other. Some of them is very clear, some of them are not. If you see lower down, Anuradha, it's like a Ratnavali. It is like a pendant. Yeah, it is like a pendant if you see the star clearly like that. So there are several like that. For example, Maga is called a Koshtagara. It looks like a room or an enclosure or a prakara. And all these descriptions are available. Unfortunately, people who know only Siddhantic and the Palita Jyotiṣa, they say there are 12 forms for the Rashi. Mesha looks like ram, and the Vrishabha looks like Taurus. They don't look like that if you see in the sky. But these are the nakshatras which look like that. Some of them they have shifted today because of the precision. You can't see the form clearly. Either some of them have vanished because they were supernova or whatever. Some of them they moved to shifted to other places. So the figure cannot be fully seen. But here in those days they were very clear on this. Even the Jains were very clear. The Jaina texts also give these forms as what they had observed, how to identify the nakshatras. And in this, you can see the Nadi nakshatra is what he says. Vṛddhagārgīya Jyotiṣa, Mahāsalilaṁ had only 2. The nakshatra, Janma nakshatra is where the sun, the moon is in which nakshatra. Then, from there, from the birth nakshatra, the 5th, there are 5 more nakshatras which are important. 10th is the karma nakshatra. So you have Kritika, then you count 10, that becomes the karma nakshatra. Then the others are there. 16th is the Sanghatika, 18th is the Samudayika, 23rd is the Vainashika, and 25th is the Manasa. These are the 5, he calls it the Nadi Nakshatra Jataka, both Parashara as well as in the manuscript it is associated with Bhrigu. So these you have to have in mind. For any individual, he is born in one of the 27, that is his Janma Nakshatra. You have to make a prediction for him when he comes to you when he is about 15 years old or so. I want to see him doing something. How you tell me what I have to do? Then he has to see from the 10th nakshatra, from the Kritika, see in the sky. That is why in the Vedas, it is the nakshatra darsha, the word is mentioned. Many people say, oh look, your astrology is only with the graha. Today is only with the graha. With the Palita Jyotish is all fully with the grahas and the horoscope. You don't look at the nakshatra even, Except when you want to do some auspicious work or something, Prof says don't do in this nakshatra and all that. Why? It is actually a dichotomy which has come into our system. Something which is borrowed from outside or which has inducted into our system, whereas the older one is pure, logical, systematic, from which you could go to the next step. The grahas are there. You look at the 10th nakshatra from his Janma nakshatra, tell him what he has to do, whether it is some graha is there, something else is happening there. And not only 2, he gives the 5 nakshatras. This might have increased more. Actually, people say there are 16 bhavas. Today in the Planetary Jyotiṣa only 12 bhavas, but in the older time, I think there are 16 bhavas. Could be. And this is better scientifically because you are dividing person's life or whatever, granularity is more. You do 27, it is more accurate than 1 by 12. So you can get a precise thing, a better thing in this one. Now, if you take only degrees, seconds and all that, the modern one, nakshatras have no meaning. You don't need nakshatras at all. You can do everything only that way. And that is where this ayana, nirayana, trouble and all this has come, But let us be very clear, if there was any power the ancients assumed, it was with the nakshatras. And the nakshatras were stri, and all the activities he gives a definition, Agni Shomatmakam. Sarvam Jagat Agni Shomatmakam, he says. All this is Agni Shoma. That is the stri and pum principle. Soma is the pum, nakshatras are the stri. In the astrological thing. Even otherwise, everything is only Agni Shomatmakam. So, this is, I think I should be coming to the end. This is the calendar is also, that is the last part, Sarvesham nakshatranam karmasu kritikaha prathama achakshate. The Kritika nakshatra was the first one during that period. But Rohini sarva nakshatranam prathama. Rohini was the first nakshatra for all the nakshatras. So it is a memory of the previous period, some 200, 300 years before. And more important, Magha Sauryanam Saumyanancha Ayana Nakshatrana. For the Ayana Nakshatra, it is the Magha. Not only for the Saurya Nakshatra. Saurya is going to be Surya's Ayana. Saumya Ayananam. Moon also has an Ayana. Moon also has a lateral thing. For that, Magha is the first nakshatra. That is, the summer solstice was occurring in Magha. That is Dakshinayana Prarambha. 400 years before Lagada. And the Surya Aditya Chara of the manuscript, which I showed, 1300 BC. That is the Maghadi system. This Maghadi system is Vaidika. There are some mistakes which others have done. Pingree has written all nonsense and all that. I will not go into that, but it is given here. And even Sudhakar Dwivedi, who edited some of this, he made all kinds of mistakes because Saumyanancha Ayana Nakshatranam, he read it as, he could not read it properly, and you can see, he said, Vignanam Rohini Sarva Nakshatranam. Rohini Sarva Nakshatranam, it is Prathama there, and then Magha Sauryanam, he read it correctly. Bhogyanancha Aryama, he wrote, And everybody has taken it only this way because 120 years old already. In our manuscripts, when we have gone through, because he read the manuscript of the commentary on this, and only one quotation given by that manuscript he collected, went to Kashi and collected that manuscript also. I have put it there. In the book also it is there. Somakara was in 700 AD or so. He knew Garga, but they need not say it was Vṛddhagārgīya of later on in 21st century, somebody is going to look at Vṛddhagārgīya Samhita. He said only whatever he knew. But Pingree and others say, no, even this Indians are claiming is going to be, the Garga belongs to 1300 BC. It's wrong. Because this Garga I have seen, it belongs only to 500 BC maximum kind of thing. Because of Sudhakar Dwivedi. Bhogyanancha Aryama has no meaning. I'm sure there are people here who would know Aryama is one of the devatas for a nakshatra Purva Palguni also. But why? What is Bhogyanancha Aryama? And further also something, Nakshatranam Sarvasa Shad Rashitanam Adihi Shravishta, he says. Shad Rashitanam Adihi, he says. Rashita itself is a wrong word, grammatically, but maybe you can take Rashi. He says for the 6 Rashis, Shravishta is the beginning. It makes some meaning. That would mean Shravishta is the beginning means it goes to the winter solstice beginning because Shravishtadi was the Lagada. He had that in his mind because it is the Vyakhyana for the Yajusha Jyotiṣa. our manuscript you have read fully, it is not there. It's Shadashitenam Adihi Shravishta. For the 86 stars, Shravishta is the Adi. Now, Shravishta, Dhanishta is a complicated issue. I will not go into that. Dhanishta later on has become a paryaya they have taken. But the original visible Shravishta we have identified and marked all those things. Why this statement is important? Moon also has a lateral thing. That is the starting of the calendar. Because they have to know the with which thing it is there. So this is the Magadhi epoch. So the Mahāsalilaṁ text belongs to this period when Magha was the beginning of an ayana. Ayana, it can only be Dakshinayana. Unless you go 26,000 years back and say, no, Uttarayana could have been there. I'm not going so far because there is also Magha in the Vedas. Surya yonihi kalasya tasya etad rupam yan nimeshadi kala sampratam dvadashamkam. Etasya agneyam ardhamardham varunam maghadyam shravishtartham agneyam kramena utkramena. It comes in the Maitrayani Aranyaka. So the Maitrayani Aranyaka has a Maghadyam period, very clear, and there is a 12 division of the year. They are not the Rashis. They are the 12 divisions for sun, that is okay. They are not the modern Rashis, Mesha Vrishubha kind of thing, because it starts with the Magadhya. So if scientifically I have to do something, and he also says it is the Agneyam, that is the summer is starting. They did not use the Dakshinayana. Up to what Shravishtartha, it is the 183 days. And that can be shown. We have worked on this. This is what last time I showed, this graph. Because computer-wise, we had to generate lot of full moon data for about 3,000 years. Because the same thing comes in the Brahmanda Purana. Vishaka 1/4 and Kritika 1/4, the full moon occur. Unless I get the full moon position and the sun position, I can't decide the date. And that is how we combined all this, and it comes to that shadow portion which is there. When the spring equinox would occur in Kritika nakshatra, and then in the other equinox would occur in the sun was in the Vishaka nakshatra. When sun was in the Vishaka nakshatra, the month would be called Kartika, because the full moon is going to be in Kartika. This is the important thing which comes from the Brahmanda Purana. Today it doesn't happen like that. In the autumn equinox, the Kartika Masa has already gone 1 month away. You call it Kartika and do all that. It doesn't match with the Ayanas and the Vishwa points. Solar, it doesn't match. Then people say, no, there is my Chandramana calendar. Okay, do whatever you want. But here it is very clear. So this is how I have put the zodiac also. And how did they measure? It is the number of days. The first day you start with that. Shravishtartha will be half of that, 183. From there the other things start. This belongs to the 1800 BC, the average. It may be 100 years this way or that way. The Rohini being, the Prajapati being with Rohini would have occurred some 300 years before this period. When Kritika was in the equinox, and even before that, in the Vasanta Rutu, Rohini would be rising. So that was the Prajapati Samvatsaraha, Prajapati is everything, Saptadasha Kala, Prajapati, all that belongs to that period. Okay, I think I'm ending. 5 minutes I will take and end, Oh, it's 5:30 already. So there is, the calendar is also there. Okay, that Ayana he has given. Let me show where it is. Dvatashati Narada Chaturvimshatihi. Yajne Sankhayam Pancha Samvatsaraha. Dasha Surya Ayanani Chatustrimsha Chandrayana Shatam Bhavati. This is the important thing. In Yajna, for Yajna, this Pancha Samvatsara is the important thing. Pankto Yajna and all these things are very standard in the Vedas, Dasha Surya Ayanani, there are going to be 10 Suryas Ayana. One Ayana is going from one end to the other end, And then coming back, the return which happens, like in a pendulum, during that period, there will be 134 Chandrayana Shatam Bhavati. Chandrayana will happen 134 times. That is 67 cycles happen in 5 years. This has been borrowed as the sidereal cycle later on. That number comes to 27.31. Is accurate up to 2 decimal even today. So if they knew this, and that circle which I showed previous diagram, they count the days from Magha Nakshatra, it is the bottommost point in that circle, is the day 1. Keep on measuring, keep on counting, 366 divided by 27. That division is also coming, I am not imagining, in the Nidana Sutra. So how sun stays in each nakshatra for 366 divided by 27 is what he says. He gives it in number 13 days, then 5 kalas, then 9 divided by 9 and all that, and 13 5 by 9 days. Puranas give 13 and half.
In Malayalam it is called Nyatuvela. Malayalam it is called Nyatuvela, that period, no?
Okay.
13 days and...
I see. Okay. Puranas give 13 and half. But that's an average, because it is not going to be equal, but they take it as equal. So if they know the number of sunrises, it is Ahargana. The later on concept which has come is from the Vedas only. The Ahargana Yaga is also there. You have to count the number of days as sunrise only. There is nothing else you can do. The timekeeping is only sunrise. The different nakshatras keep on coming, and the 183rd day, it is at the half of Shravishta nakshatra. And this belongs to 1800 BC. This is what I wanted to say. And if moon is there, moon has 134. So it is going to be 67 by 5. So you can put moon there, because moon makes one cycle 27 days. So you have to make the marks there. So if you have 2 circles, one top circle, one bottom circle, you can rotate it and then see when the matching is happening. And so you know that on a particular day, in the morning you don't know the moon nakshatra, but from calculation you can know. This is how astronomy, mathematical astronomy has started. This is the last part, it is over. Concluding remarks, I think I have said everything, I will not say anything more. The last one is important. Text invokes Vedas and calls itself Jyotiṣa. In effect, making MS, the Mahāsalilaṁ, the extent Vedanga Jyotiṣa. The Mahāsalilaṁ will prove to be of great interest not only to historians of astronomy, but also to traditional scholars, those searching for Vedic roots of Hindu astrology. Unfortunately, Islamic astrology is called Vedic astrology today. They can as well practice this and say this is Vedic astrology. The last sentence in the text is this: Ityeta Jyotiṣangam Mahāsalilaṁ Praja Sambhavanāditi. From the Salila, first Mahāsalila, when the split happened, up to the Praja Sambhavana. Praja means not necessarily human beings. Life, all life started. That is the Mahāsalila. And it is a sagara, obviously. Asya Shastrasya Mahāsalilaṁ. Etatya Punyam, Yashasyam, Ayushyam, etc. Sarva Samshayanam Vyakaranam. And it is not grammar. Vyakarana means analysis only. And Naputraya Pradeyam. You have to keep it secret. Etat Vijnana Paramam. This is science par excellence. And this is the Salila, Mahāsalila. So thank you very much.